going to discuss with you the act of communication, and I'm going to give you a few various examples. I think it would be good if we all held in mind communication in a fairly loose sense of the word, and I'm going to talk to you about art and science, sometimes where the collaboration is only within a person, and sometimes where the collaboration is a lot broader. Also, I'm not entirely limited to visual arts in this. So, let's start off with some geeks. So these are, all my notes are not showing on this screen, or on that screen, okay. So these are some Nobel Prize winners who discovered RNA in the 60s. And they are doing a marvellous job of showing what our stereotype of scientists is. They, white lab coats, all looking a bit studious. And as Svenja said, there's this idea of objective truth and an objective look on the world, which is sort of embodied in science. So then there's the artist. If we're going to look at marvellous stereotypes, again, we've got somebody working generally subjectively, showing the world through their own lens to people, often like this chap working alone, but not always, and certainly not these days. We'll get to that. And that's our divide. We've got, we have conceptions of these two kind of ways of looking at the world, which is a legacy of essentially C.P. Snow from the 1950s, who told us that these things were very different and that they couldn't coexist very easily, which has brought us to this place where we're now talking about collaborations between the two disciplines. So, to look at this through a lens of communication, there are various essential aspects about communication. There's communication within an art-science collaboration, which we'll get to finally, but there's also one of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight was communication outside of the practice, so communication to other people who aren't involved in the practice, which can be, the public in general or other practitioners, but not within that practice. So there are art-science collaborations which have a strongly communicative element in as much as they are designed to be communicative. This is an example of just one such thing. This is a group that I work with called the Enlightenment Cafe, and this is, they do immersive theatre experiences. This is one of their most recent, and it's called Deadinburgh. And they staged a zombie apocalypse in Edinburgh City over the course of 4 days, where actors and audience members convened to stage this catastrophic circumstance where a virus, we've all seen World War Z and all the previous zombie movies, it was a virus, started to turn people into zombies. The people of Edinburgh who went to the experience were ultimately given lots of information and asked to make a choice. On the basis of the information that they got from scientists and from the military, who they had to decide whether to trust or not, they had to decide whether to make a run for it if they weren't infected, lock down the city or cause everybody to expire in the city by blowing it up. You know, so here they are mid sort of decision-making discussion. By immersing people in this environment, you know, creating this fiction, there's a lot of kind of communication of things like epidemiology and, you know, the action of viruses and the kind of global systemic issues that are being faced by these things. And to immerse people in it in this way is a very interesting and provocative way, I think, of communicating to them what the realities are of certain types of science these days. So that's one example. That's art and sciences communication. This is, in a completely different vein, this is a photograph of an exhibition by Cape Farewell. Now, Cape Farewell they're an organisation who bring together artists and scientists, and they go, or they used to go off on voyages to the Arctic, and they would, you know, they take scientists on board, they take artists on board, everybody would go and explore this fantastic, rapidly changing environment, and look at, you know, how it's changing, why is it changing, look at all of the science behind it, and be moved emotionally by being immersed in it. And then they'd come back and the scientists would write things up and the artists would write things up, and sometimes the scientists would write up artistic things, and, you know, this particular photograph is from an exhibition called High Arctic, which was at the National Maritime Museum, and it was incredibly moving. I don't know if anyone else had the opportunity to go there, but it was incredibly moving. Every single one of these pillars is a glacier that is rapidly diminishing in size because of global warming. And it's that kind of, it's another example of a kind of visceral reaction that you can get to a scientific principle, which is, you know, essentially we should look at dispassionately, but brought by artistic kind of endeavour. So there are other ways that these art-science collaborations can move towards sort of helping us understand either the world or science or whatever. So this is a Symbiotica project, and I think you spoke so eloquently about sort of tissue cultures and this kind of bioart that I don't need to say very much, but just to sort of re-emphasize, this is these types of work which really are very challenging on a biological level to people. They raise questions about how we exist now and how technologies that are becoming more and more prevalent are ethically impacting upon us. And that, by, again, touching us emotionally, they are communicating about science to us. They're also communicating about art to us, you know, because they raise questions of, you know, is it art? That fantastic question that is often asked of so many great projects. So, it raises these questions, these very important kind of questions that help us understand how we live. So now I'm going to show you a video of a piece of art that I absolutely love. It's by Mariko Mori. It's called Tomna Hugh 2. And I really hope the video works. Yes, yes. So, I'm going to let you drink it in for a minute and then I'll talk about it. So what you're seeing, these trails of light in this obelisk, are, in this particular case, muons hitting the Super Kamiokande cosmic ray detector in Japan, and a live feed coming through to the Royal Academy in London, and being visualised in this way to a room full of awestruck viewers. Mariko Mori was not doing this necessarily to, she was not doing this to communicate art, science, but the knowledge behind this beautiful artwork makes it all the more kind of inspiring and beautiful, you know? Which actually puts me in mind of that argument that, you know, if you understand how something works, it becomes less beautiful to you, less magical. I've never understood that argument myself, I have to say. But I think in this case it's certainly not true. And this is, actually, just to say, this is a bit of a tour of lots of my favourite art projects. So I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. When I saw this artwork, it absolutely blew my mind. I saw it at the Beautiful Elsewhere exhibition at the Fondation Cartier. It is an inverse sphere that's been fabricated in a flawless manner by Hiroshi Sugimoto, who normally does beautiful, well, he does beautiful sculptures, he also does beautiful photography. But the gradient on this spike increasingly goes towards the y-axis, but never reaches it. It's an asymptote. So as you walk into the room and you follow the line of the gradient, because that's your reaction to this kind of gradient, you sweep up and up and up and up and up and up, and you see infinity. It's incredible. Really, you know, like, people talk about equations being beautiful. Personally, to me, this sculpture embodies that beauty of that equation so much more than if I could imagine it in my head, because it takes you unawares and suddenly you can see something that you never thought you'd be able to see. Anyway, here is one more example. How am I doing on time, I wonder? So this is Raphael Lozano Hema. This is quite a long video, and I might skip forward. No? Okay, I'll run it. Okay, great. I'm going to let you enjoy this and then read the words as they come at the bottom of the screen. Isn't that lovely? You're all there, all together, all these people that have never met, linked by biodata, essentially, being held in a room, and it's just beautiful. Oh, crikey, we're already on to Keir Hardie. So, all right, so those are all my examples of, I suppose I should say, about Raphael, Lozano, Hema. To my knowledge, that was not done as part of any kind of, art-science collaboration. It was done by an artist who wanted to, he does explore science and digital, the digital world, and I think it's a really powerful way of bringing us into contact with our own physicality, which is by its essence a scientific thing in some ways. So, to bring it back on point a little bit, I'm going to talk about the future of art and science by talking about the past. And one of my favourite figures from the past is Keir Hardie, who was this photo was taken in 1992. He was around during the Industrial Revolution. He campaigned for a great many sort of things of social good, including free education and education for all children, and women's suffrage. He was a top-notch Scottish chap, was Keir Hardie, But the key point about Keir Hardie is that he wished to empower people. Having grown up, he was born into a mining family. He went into the mines at 11. He taught himself to read and write, and he realised how empowering knowledge and education is, and he wanted to share that with everyone else. And I think that Keir Hardie kind of embodies what I think is really key to the future of where we're going culturally and as a society. And that's in kind of greater education for everybody, more knowledge for everybody, which is going to make communication between disciplines, between these established disciplines that we're talking about today, so much easier, because we have the ability to share worldviews now that there are digital resources, and now that there is more openness, now that we have more information available to us in an accessible way, a non-institutionalized accessible way, means that we all have a shared lexicon, which brings about much easier kind of discussion and interplay, and a shared worldview, hopefully. This is what I'm thinking anyway. So up here are just a few examples of some of the fantastic places where you can not only get resources or share resources, but learn about new stuff. TED, for example, it's really changed the way that a lot of people see the world. Even if some people are tired of it by now, it's had a huge impact on what people are aware of, opening up people's worldview. And I suppose that's where I want to go with the end of this talk, is, this kind of openness, this open knowledge drive that we've seen has led to a lot of hackerspaces and maker movements and tinkerers and people creating in a new way, in a different way. It's not the same as art, it's not the same as science, and it's not the same as art and science collaborations, but it's something very interesting, that has elements of everything in it. And I think we're still sort of finding out where it's going to go. So it's going to take us to something else. That's me. I'm done.